Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have an exceptional guest with me. She is a renowned business coach who has been transforming the lives of salon owners and stylists since 2012. As a former seven-figure salon director and an experienced coach of over 10,000 stylists, her mission is to empower 1 million beauty professionals to achieve six-figure income. As a CEO and founder of Thrivers Society, she is a true inspiration to the beauty industry, and I'm excited to have her help me welcome the one and only Miss Britt Seva. Britt, how you doing?
I am doing so good. And I want to thank you so much for having me on your show, but also for the incredible work that you do. I don't know if you know this or if the people know this, but I turn down most podcast interview requests. I really have to feel aligned to a show. And I saw your show and what you talk about and where your heart is. And I just felt so drawn to you and your message. So thank you right back for the incredible work you do. You're very powerful.
I thank you so much for that compliment. Listen, we are both hairstylist background. And we're talking about Hairstylist Appreciation Day, which is necessary. We should have a whole month if people really knew what we deal with. But a day out, we'll take it. But we want to celebrate stylists, but also give them some tools to expand and broaden their perspective as it pertains to this business. But I want to start first with your experience. I realize you started hair school, I believe, in 2007. Talk to us about what your idea of this career was when you first entered beauty school.
That's such a great question, Cornell. And I think that for me, I don't know if it was being naive or lack of information, but I really felt a little bamboozled once I got out of school. And actually partway through school too, I really thought that I was joining this career development program where I would be able to serve people I cared about, build their confidence, like really serve a community. But within a year's time, I would have gained a physical skill set. And within maybe another year, I would have built a full clientele. I mean, I really thought within 2 years, I'd have a sustainable business that could support my young family. I had a 2-year-old daughter when I was enrolling in school, and I had like real adult stuff going on. And I really thought that I could build this beautiful dream life for myself. I think I imagined a lot of what the industry does in that I'd have freedom and flexibility and control. And I felt I didn't have any of that. And what really scared me is I did join a really great salon team. I'm very grateful for that. Great education, lots of support. But I looked around and there wasn't a single person who was living that dream life I thought I was buying into. It was a lot of struggle, a lot of confusion, a lot of overwhelm. And I really felt I needed to kind of carve my own path. I just didn't see anybody building business strategically in the beauty industry. And it was very disheartening.
So you get into this business. Did you stay a stylist behind the chair very long?
Great question. Not long at all. I only did hair for a couple of years. So the program that I joined gave us, I think it was training for about 9 months, a very established assisting program. I was in education 6 hours a week, a very defined program, graduation benchmarks. So I built a good skill set in 9 months of mentorship there. I was given the opportunity to build a clientele at that point. And at that 9-month mark, I asked, my mentors, okay, great. So now I've got my chair. What do I do? And it was the kind of generic advice of like, hand out cards, ask for referrals. It takes time. It takes time has become like my least favorite phrase in the world because it's like, man, that just feels so out of control. Like it just takes time. Just wait and hope something great happens. And so I started getting weird. I had this beautiful little girl I had to feed. I couldn't just give it time. That wasn't going to work for me. And so I started really aggressively marketing myself, walking college campuses, mailing out hundreds of postcards. I mean, doing stuff that my co-stylists made fun of me for. They really gave me a hard time about it, almost like it was embarrassing at how hard I was working to build my clientele. And it worked. I mean, I built really, really fast. And through the building fast, my co-stylists continued to kind of nudge me and make fun. 2 years later, the owner of my salon saw what I was doing, saw how lit up I was by the business side of things, and said, hey, listen, we need somebody to really do this for the salon as a whole. Would you consider abandoning your clientele and instead being the salon director, marketing the way you're marketing for yourself, for the salon as a whole, leading the team, mentorship, figuring out a new way of motivation? And I took a leap of faith and said yes. And for 7 years, I led that salon team. We more than doubled our revenue in that time. And it was simply through being innovative and truly running the business like a business, Cornell. And I don't know why in this industry there isn't more just great, solid business advice. I always say I didn't do anything that was completely wild or wacky or radical. I simply applied really great business practices, and it exploded the salon because nobody else was doing it.
So true. So true. I can attest to that statement. You said it takes time. I heard that so much in the beginning of my career. And my story was where I had kind of built a clientele before going into the salon environment. At home, you're charging $30, $25, little or nothing. They're running. Now I shift and realize I should be more respected, and your prices go up, your environment changes, you have to schedule, everything changed. So I'm left now at this position where I had a clientele that I thought was going to be the bridge to get me into the salon environment and thrive. No longer. Oh, we don't want to pay. That's too much. That costs too much. So I completely understand that whole grind and having to get your name out there. Even when you think you have a support system, so you get into this environment where you're now the director of the salon. Tell me, when it comes to you personally, looking back at that time, did you see that whole marketing mindset, or did it kind of develop over time?
I think that's a really great question. I want to go back to the statement you made real quick, and then I want to get into that. What you experienced is so incredibly common. And I think there's a lot of people who stay in that, like serving their friends, serving their people, wanting to like continue to nurture those who built them up. And like, that's so noble. And I understand, but we can stay loyal to a fault to those who served us for that season of life of like, yes, you did get me my foot in the door. Yes, you were my foundation. I am grateful for that. I am building a career for myself. And I really live by the ideology that everybody in our lives is like reason, season, or lifetime. And it's okay if some clients were just there for a season. It's okay that they don't want to pay $60 to see you. But by continuing to play small and charge small, you're not only limiting yourself and your family and how you can care for them, you're not exposing yourself to a clientele who isn't interested in seeing somebody who only charges 25 or 30 bucks. Like that fear of living in your wealth and your what is rightfully yours keeps everybody small. And so if anybody is still in that mindset of like, well, I don't want it to come across like I'm too big for the people who put me here, work through it, but it is a part of the process, and it doesn't serve anybody to stay that small. As far as the marketing mindset, I was very fortunate in that before I got into the industry, I had a bit of a tough upbringing. And so I started working like full time. Like I get out of high school and go to a job for like 5 hours in the evening. And so I started really, really working at 15. And by the time I was 17, I was hired at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. There was one that had just opened up in my community. And by the time I was 20, I was a pretty big deal in their marketing department. And so I learned some really solid marketing foundations from a big Fortune 500 company. And like I said before, it's not that they taught me anything like trendy or super tactical. It was very simple foundations, Cornell. And I think that for a lot of people in our industry, they say things like, well, I don't have a degree in business, or I didn't want to have to do all that. It's fairly simple. If we can sit back and just unpack, like, listen, what is it the consumers need to see in order to feel motivated to choose a service provider? The steps are fairly easy. And so I just kind of took what I had learned from marketing a hotel. I was in weddings and special events, like what we had to do to sell a wedding or special event is what we were all about. How do I apply those principles to salon services? And sure enough, it was the exact same thing. So I was able to bring those principles in. And you know what worked, Cornell, is I wasn't afraid to fail. I tried 20 tactics and 2 of them worked, and 18 we had to throw in the garbage can. But that's what really smart business building looks like. I think that so many of us are afraid to fail, so we don't even try. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to do a full promotion that totally bombs, but having that fearlessness to just make the effort. That was what exploded the salon. That's what made all the difference.
Speaking of promotion and marketing, obviously you talked about going out and hitting the streets. I think you were around the 2008
Yep.
time frame. I was like late 90s, so you can imagine how much different. But let's bring it into the framework of today. Is it easier now that we have platforms like Instagram? Is it easier to get your message, or is it more complicated? What would you say?
I love that question, Cornell. And I would actually love your take on it too. So I'm going to turn it back around to you. I don't know that it's easier or harder. I think that it's different. It's really different. I don't know how it felt to you, but for me, walking college campuses for 8 hours, pushing my daughter in a stroller, that felt like hard work. And I felt like I was really sacrificing a lot to put myself out there. What are people going to do? Flip through the yellow pages to find us? Like,
right.
Right? I mean, there was websites. You'll have to imagine websites weren't a big deal. There was no social media. It was like walk-ins, word of mouth, maybe the yellow pages. There just wasn't a lot to put yourself out there. And as a young green stylist, it's just that much harder. So I look back on that thinking it's hard. So now it's easy for me to say social media makes it so easy, but it's a whole new skill set. We've got to learn to be photographers. You got to be a great caption writer. Make sure you stay consistent. Did you put in the time to market yourself? So I don't know that it's easier or harder. I think that it's different. And I think it's more sustainable. Like walking a college campus every single weekend is not sustainable. No. Learning to use Instagram is doable. It's painful for a few months, but you get it and you can continue doing it.
Yeah. I would agree. Now that you put it that way, because I was going to say it's harder, but I think it is just different, because when you put out the point about walking and you're passing out flyers, some people don't even want to, they take it and then you walk back by and you see all your flyers on a little table. They're not even taking them with them. So now you're like, oh my gosh. But when you talk about Instagram, I like the idea of sustainability. It definitely is sustainable. It gives you also a portfolio that now you can refer people to. It has a built-in community type of aspect. So now you can take these followers and build a community around that, which you really can't do just passing out a business card or a flyer about your, upcoming special. So I would say it is different. And honestly, I would say, I think it might be easier than you think. I want to ask also, when it comes to now you're in this position where you're the marketing director of salons, the salon owner wanted you to now to take this leadership role. After doing that for so long, did it click like, no, this is my vein, this is my lane, or were you like missing the styling clientele end of things?
Okay, Cornell, I didn't miss it for 1 second, but it's like a confession. I'm always like, oh,
I know, right?
It's such a confession. I'm curious as to how you feel about that, but I really, I loved doing hair. You know what I loved? I loved working with people. I actually didn't love doing hair, if I could be honest. I loved working with people, and I still miss that piece. I still crave and I miss pretty deeply. But cutting hair, coloring hair, I don't think my heart was in it. I look back and I think had I been more educated, had education been a little bit more accessible like it is now, I think I could have learned to love it. But because I was kind of intercepted so early in my career and given the opportunity to really lean into the skill set I already had, it came really easily to me. I didn't have this longing to get back behind the chair. It was almost like the calling to like, this is your sweet spot. This is what you're supposed to do. And now I love the work I do so much. Like, I don't know about you. I love reading a marketing book. I love geeking out on like what's the latest with all the social media platforms. I find a lot of joy in it. I don't know that I personally would get that same amount of joy learning to do a haircut, but also I bailed out of doing the services so early. It's hard for me to say, but I think that's a really great question, because I know we're in this era of like, maybe I should choose education. Maybe doing the hair isn't for me. Maybe there's more money elsewhere. And my advice, if anybody's at that crossroads, is don't chase the money. Really think about what fills your soul, because you can make great money doing whatever the heck it is you want to do, literally anything. Yeah. But if there's no joy in it, there's no point.
So true. So true. I would agree. I love the people. I still like getting my hands in there a little bit. But I agree with you. I think it's the people that really drew me to this field, and that what really kept me interested in it. I have to add, there was a point, and I don't know if you dealt with this because you were only in it for a while, and it may be different for a male hairstylist. I'm not sure, but I had a salon that I worked at, and I was just so happened to be the manager, and the receptionist would take all of our appointments. And one day she walked in and she said, one of your wives is on the phone. And I'm like, and I'm not married at that time. And she says, I was like, what? She said, one of your many wives, talking about my clients, because she would be able to help them with anything they needed, scheduling, anything that they needed to refer to me. She'd come ask. They didn't want to talk to her. Where is he? So she gave me, and that's how it felt. Like you have all these wives that need you. But I managed it so well, and it was a beautiful thing because so many relationships came out of it. But yes, when you talk about that aspect of it, I don't really miss that as much.
I think that's such a good point, though. Like you were everything to those clients. Like we take it for granted sometimes because we have a whole ton of clientele, right? They only have one of you, and you were their everything. Like, I mean, it's got, but there's both sides to it. There's definitely like pros and cons, but I think it's really important to remember, like, that is the impact we have on people. Yes. You were a really big deal to those clients. And I think there can be a stigma in our industry of like, oh, you just do haircuts. Oh, you just do clients. You don't want to be an owner. You don't want to, the power in doing the services that we're capable of doing on people, we change lives. I tell the story. I went to my first hairstylist, the hairstylist I saw for maybe 10 years. She passed when I was probably 23. Her funeral still to this day is the largest funeral I have ever been to. Like the amount of people who showed up because they loved that woman. I mean, hundreds of clients. Wow. I've never seen anything like that before. And so I always like to tell that story as a reminder of like the work you do really matters. You make an impact in a way most people never get the chance.
So true. So true. Now you help, and you're on a mission to help 1 million stylists or beauty professionals, because this isn't just for hairstylists, beauty professionals get to that 6-figure income. Where did this passion, this mission come from?
I think that it originally started with me, if I can be honest. Like I created a program that I wished existed for myself. I was a young, struggling single mom, and I really felt I had joined this industry full of possibility. And I felt like within a year, slammed in my face was, but you're never going to make more than 25 grand. And I just thought, there's got to be a better way. That's not true. When you look at the handful of people who do really well, why can't we all just do that? And what became pretty clear to me pretty early on is, unfortunately, there's this undertone in the industry that a lot of people don't want those around them to be successful. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a mindset thing, or like if I don't know how to grow, I'll keep you small alongside with me, and we'll both kind of stay safe and comfortable here. I really believe there is no reason why every beauty professional can't be making 100 grand or more if they want to. If you're happy making 30, I'm happy for you. But if you really want to be the breadwinner in your family, if you want to be able to buy 3 vacation, whatever it is you want to do, I don't see why this industry can't take you there. I can't for the life of me figure it out. When we look, people say, I wish we had the respect that doctors have, that lawyers have, that these professionals have. Okay, well, it starts with us. So we can't keep running the way that we are, expecting people to treat us differently. We can all make 200 grand a year, 300 grand a year, 400 grand a year like doctors do. If we got to show up to the table though first. And I thought in my lifetime, if it was possible to elevate an entire industry, it's a huge lofty goal. I hope to see it possible. It's a huge lofty goal. There's 1 million beauty professionals in the US today. I said, if by the time my work is done, the bar has been raised for our industry as a whole, and it's industry standard to be making closer to 100 grand than right now. The average income for a beauty professional is 28 grand. If I can raise that to $100,000, this lifetime's been worth it. And I really feel that way. I wish it had been there for me. And I want every other person who chooses to get a barbering license, a cosmetology license, an aesthetics license, whatever it is, to be able to provide a big, beautiful life for their family. That means a lot to me.
I love that mission. And I'm cheering you on, rooting you on, and however I can support, listen, whatever. I love it. But I wanted to speak to the comment you made about other stylists or professionals not wanting to see you excel. That's also true. And I don't know if you've experienced it, but with clients.
Big time.
There are some clients who they feel like, because you know, and that's why I make it a habit. I never do transactions in front of other clients. They're already trying to count based on what they pay. So they're considering what you might have made for the day. If you saw 10 people like this, I know he made. So they're counting your pockets, but they don't even really see all the back end. I have to pay an assistant. You have to pay gas and stuff just to get all of the elements that come with just doing that one service. You may charge $60, but really your profit may have only been $30. You know what I mean?
100%. And the profit margin for our industry is exceptionally low, like on the average pricing scale, and cost of goods is only going up, Cornell. And to what you said, I think so many people judge based on that gross price, that top line price, and they don't even take into account the cost to run a business. And what you just said right there is such a misfire in our industry. Nobody would ever go to their doctor's office and say, no, I would like to negotiate that rate down. It's not even a question.
Yep.
But it starts with us. Like, there is some work that we need to do as professionals to change that stigma. Can you imagine? I can never imagine questioning how much somebody is paying for me for whatever it is service I'm providing. But there's something funny about our industry where that's socially acceptable.
So true. So true. So speaking of that, with the price of goods and things going up, how do you suggest stylists price their services now?
Really great question. Pricing is such a hot topic right now. I am a believer in protecting the profit margin. I think it sounds really great. It rolls off the tongue really nicely to say, you know, I charge $100 an hour or whatever. If you're only making $20 in that hour because you're losing 80% in your margin, that is not impressive to me. I think that we need to really look at the business that we're running and how to ensure that we're making the profit that feeds our family, keeps us going. This is tricky. I want to make sure I say this properly. There's a mindset right now of, you know, inflation's here. It costs more for me to run my business. I'm not going to pay for that. My clients are going to have to. In a lot of ways, I agree. The challenge is clients don't care that your cost of business has gone up. I don't care that my grocery store has to pay more to buy a bushel of bananas. I don't care, but they're definitely passing that cost on to me and I pay it. The difference in our industry is that there are, like I said, 1 million beauty professionals. There's plenty of places people can go for service. I want them to always choose you. Because we are in a recession, there's no doubts about it. We're watching banks fail. Consumers are a little bit more shy to spend right now. They just are. Perceived value must increase before you can raise prices. And then I want every single stylist to raise. I really do. I think it's necessary. Too many people are playing way too small and taking a personal sacrifice. However, increasing what I like to call perceived value must come first. Otherwise, your price increase could cost you 30 or 40% of your income this year. And that scares me. But so long as we can get that perceived value up, everybody needs to be doing price increases this year.
Is there a certain percentage you would say that they should increase?
I have a scary percentage to share with you.
Uh-oh.
I know. So essentially, everybody's income must increase by at least 20% this year to stay out ahead of inflation. It's not even like, oh, that's gonna make a leaps and bounds difference in the way you live. It's not. Inflation is just so deep right now that's kind of just keeping our heads above water.
So true. So true. So you get a stylist who's fresh out of beauty school like yourself. Yeah. And they say, I'm buying into this 6-figure. I want it. Where do you start them?
I love this question. I don't know if you know this, but my daughter's in beauty school.
Oh.
And her boyfriend's in a barbering program. So between the two of them, they're like my project right now. And I love it so much. So it's so funny. People think like, oh, your daughter's in school, she must be 10 steps ahead. No, to her, I'm just her mom. She really doesn't know a ton of what I do. She's just now starting to learn. For the both of them, we are starting with, really figuring out who it is they want to work with and attract, like target market clientele overall. Like my daughter's boyfriend, Emilio, he can do color. He's licensed to do it. He's not starting there. He's starting with just cuts, which I think is great. So when I say, brand yourself, figure out your target market, very simple terms when somebody is starting out. For my daughter, she's going to do color, and cuts. I mean, very simple. It doesn't need to be overly complex. From there, we're actually starting with building their websites. We're going to start building up their social media. They're still both in school. I think the digital footprint is really important right now. To what we said at the beginning, we can hate that we have to learn to use social media. We can hate that we have to have websites. We can hate that it matters so much. But when we all walk around carrying smartphones everywhere we go, it's like, it's a little ironic that we can complain so much that that's how we build and grow our business. It's important. Now, from there, both of them would like to be employees somewhere. And I had an interesting conversation with my daughter just a couple of weeks ago. And I said, do you think you'll stay an employee long term? And she said, well, I'd like to, but I don't know if it would be possible. And I said, how come? And she said, because I fear as an employee, I won't have enough freedom. It had nothing to do with money. It was all about, can I be an employee? And she wants to be a team member really bad. That's what she saw in my salon. So to her, that's what she's striving for. And I think a lot of salon owners think, everybody's running to studio suites because they feel like they can make more money. Everybody wants to be a booth renter because they want to make more money. I actually think that as a society right now, we're craving team, whether you be independent on a team, be an employee as a team, all of that is fine for me. I think we're craving team, but I think that this new generation is really craving freedom, and I can understand that. And so as a new stylist, I would say find a salon with great culture, great energy, a supportive environment. Be patient with yourself. I'm not going to say it takes time because I don't think it needs to take time, but get strategic and don't go at it alone. I think this is an industry that really thrives on community. I'm an introvert. Community always intimidates me. I have only ever found comfort in the community that our industry offers. So I would seek it. If I was new, starting out, seek the education, build that online footprint, and seek out community.
So good. So good. We're going to prepare to wrap, but I have to ask this question. So we're looking at the 6-figure mark for a stylist, whether they're new or been in the business for a while. I'll say, and it's maybe true for your era as well, but definitely in my era, people automatically thought the trajectory to get to that wealthy side of the industry was salon ownership. Would you say
yes.
Would you say that's the only way, or is that even? I've managed a couple of times. I've never owned, but I've managed, and I have my answer, and I think it's absolutely not the way. But I'll see what do you have to say?
We have the same answer. I think that's a way to do it, definitely. But to what you said, Cornell, I think that there's this stigma in the industry that the salon owners are keeping all the money. That could not be further from the truth. There are some profitable salon owners. I've met some. I would say that represents 10% of salon ownership, if I'm being honest. Most run on razor thin margins. It can be done. One of the things I think that's missing in the industry right now is that salon ownership today looks like leadership, not just ownership. And it's it's going to take me a decade to get people on board with that, but it's a really different way of business ownership. And today's Gen Z stylists, even some millennials, are really looking for a leader mentor. And it's a learning curve for salon owners. So if you're really down to be an owner and learn what it looks like to be a leader, you can be a profitable owner. But to what you just said, it is much easier to be a 6-figure stylist, 1,000 times easier. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I have to ask this one last question. You started 2007, new to the industry. You're here now, 2023, empowering, coaching. What have you learned? What has this trajectory taught you about yourself?
That makes me a little bit emotional. It's taught me so many things, and I hope that what I've learned about myself are the lessons that everybody can carry with them too. That anything is possible. That all of us individually can overcome any of our shortcomings. I'm naturally very shy. I struggled with confidence for years and years and years, and in loving myself and choosing education and taking leaps of faith, I have built a life I'm really proud of, and I feel like I make an impact that matters. And I wake up so grateful every day that I get to do what I do. And it all goes back to me. It all goes back to, for me, making a series of very scary decisions, big, huge leaps of faith that could have allowed me to fall flat on my face. But had I not made those scary leaps, I wouldn't be here today. And I think so many people play small and play scared and are afraid to ruffle feathers. You got to ruffle a few to get to where it is you want to be. And I wouldn't get to meet incredible people like you had I not put myself out there, fallen flat 10 times. And so to anybody who feels like they're struggling or they'll never get there, there is a path for you. You were meant to be incredible. Lean into that power of community, lean into that education, and don't stop fighting the good fight, because truly 6 figures and beyond is possible for anybody and everybody living in this lifetime. And we'll lean into each other and we'll get there.
Well said. Well said. Well, Britt, you have to tell us how, or tell our audience how they can connect with you, learn about your programs, and become a part of the Thrivers Society.
I would love to. You can find me on Instagram at Britt Seva. I'm in my own DMs, so you can DM me there. We can chat it up. You can find me at brittseva.com, also at thrivingstylist.com, where you can learn more about Thrivers Society and all of my educational programs.
Awesome. Britt, it was such a pleasure. Thank you for the work you do. Keep it up, and I'm rooting for you. For sure.
Likewise, friend. Thank you.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.